welcome to Event Icons, where you get to chat with the icons of the event industry. I'm Lindsay, and joining me today is my best friend, Alex. And
Hey,
today,
buddy.
we are going to talk about body language and how you can use it to do it faster, better, stronger. We're going to talk about how you network and interview and do all those other things where people tell their bodies with a story and make the faces. Leo's got some great faces. Stan's got even better faces. And we're going to be right back and get right to it.
It's Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, so you know what that means. It's time for another episode of #Event Icons.
Presented by Endless Events.
The show where you get to ask the icons of the events industry anything.
Just go to www.event-icons.com to ask questions.
Our iconic guests will answer them live during the entire show. Before we get started, the more people we have watching, the better the conversation. So please help share #Event Icons
on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Just tell your friends to watch at www.event-icons.com.
Now, without any further delay, this is #Event Icons.
So, Leo and Stan, we've never had you on the show before, which I'm so excited about because I've known you for a few years now. And I found them through the National Speakers Association. They are two of my favorite speakers around this particular topic, but for very different reasons. So guys, tell us a little bit about yourself. And if you weren't in the events industry, what would you be doing?
No, I was going to say we should go by age, right? So we should. Oh, ouch. Go ahead.
The sexy foreign sounding voice always takes it.
What did they say? Age before beauty?
Apparently, foreign accent before beauty. So, I'll go first. So, what was the question, Lindsay, about how I got into the event
Who
industry?
are you and why are you important? And what got you into the events industry?
Should I do my anchor voice? I
Yes.
am Leo Cardenas. Pronounced Leo. So spell Leo, pronounced Leo, Spanish. So I actually moved here from Venezuela. That's where I'm originally from. I have been here for 27 years. And because when I moved to the United States from the wonderful Caracas, Venezuela, ended up in Wichita, Kansas, I didn't speak English at all. And it was kind of a shock for me. And one of the ways that I was able to kind of maneuver my way into the Wichitans world was to try to figure out their body language and actually pay attention to my own body language as a way to try to communicate doing, hand signals and weird faces. And I smiled a lot because I didn't understand anything they were saying. One of my favorite things to do was actually watch TV shows with my friends. And one of my favorites was Friends, because they had a laugh track. I knew exactly when to laugh, so I didn't feel like I was out of place. People didn't know that I wasn't getting the jokes. So laugh tracks were my life back in the day.
Which is why you got into the events industry, right? So that people would laugh for you?
I love people. People laugh at me. They don't laugh with me. They laugh at me a lot. Actually, one of my attendees one time called me quirky. And I thought that's actually a good thing. I'll take that.
You can make a business off of quirky.
I could have been educational. I could have been inspiring. It could have been more motivational. But no, it was quirky. Now I'll accept that any day. I got into body language. So body language has always been a part of my life in one way or another. But I really got into the study of body language and the research and all the science behind it about 6 years ago. And about 5 years ago is when I actually got into the world of speaking. I was a corporate trainer before that. And I met some people that were already doing speaking and very successfully. And I talked to them about what I was doing, and they inspired me to actually become a speaker. And I created a program that eventually morphed into a different program as well. So as you start the speaking business, you can't stay solid. You have to be very, very fluid with what you do. So my program has to be morphing, and it will continue to evolve as I continue this career. And so right now I do have two programs. One is Mind Your Body Language. It's about paying attention to what you do with your body language as a way to connect, collaborate, and communicate better. And the other one is actually very specific to inside sales, and it's called Can You See Me Now? And it's about the body language of being on the phone, what to do before a phone call, what to do during a phone call, and also for video calls.
Cool.
If you weren't in the events industry, what would you be doing?
I think I would be focusing solely on doing corporate training, which my program is both for events and is also for small, groups of people. But I actually do love the events industry because the conferences, the dynamic, the I don't know, the people, the circus that it is, right? I mean, I love being a part of that circus, and it is a hood. I really, really enjoy it, and it feeds me. It actually gives me more energy the more people that you give me in the room, because I think there's valid science behind this. When a few people start laughing, then the rest of the group will start laughing. When it's a small group, it's very hard to create that wave of contamination or infectious laugh. Not contamination. Let's not use that. But that infectious laugh doesn't travel as much. But when it's a big group and you come up with something funny on the fly and people laugh, it's like everybody kind of gets it and starts laughing. It's kind of like me when I was watching Friends. There we go, full circle.
Oh, that was impressive. How about you, Stan? Tell us a little about yourself. What got you into the industry? Why are you still here?
Started out as in college. I worked for the FBI. My degree and everything is in criminology and social behavior, deviant behavior, cult, and that kind of stuff. But I came by my speaking kind of legitimately. My dad was a school teacher and a Southern Baptist minister, so I didn't have a chance. I'm either going to teach her or I'm going to pound the hell out of her. I'm not sure which one. Or make you think the hell's coming to get you. But I was an investigator, and I love solving the riddles. I love understanding the people. And I was thinking this the other day about why I got here. And I really enjoyed Sherlock Holmes and his ability to look at people and to, infer or in deductive reasoning and then solve those problems and solve the puzzles. And I did an interview, first one I ever did, and I got totally blown away. The guy lied like crazy, and I bought everything he said. And I thought, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to have to be better at interviewing. So I began studying and doing some research and trying to improve my interviewing skills. And at one point, there was a conference, and I was director of security of a bank for a while. And some of the guys asked, would you show us what you do with your interviewing? I said, yeah, I'll show what's going on. And it kind of took off from there. So I've been teaching starting 38 years now, speaking, but been an NSA member 20 years, but didn't find NSA until I was 19 years in it. So I was surviving, and many speakers would tell you this, just surviving on raw energy. Maybe not refined, maybe not put in the plant, but just that raw energy. And like Leo said, feeding off the audience and seeing what worked with them. But I wanted to see them changing their attitude, changing their skill set, and being excited where they were. And I've never like Leo, never had a problem in front of audience. And maybe we're both too stupid to be scared of it. I don't know.
That's a very, very good assumption.
Really comfortable with it. And I've seen Leo a couple of times the same way. And you just feed off of that. I work with military and law enforcement and intelligence. I've worked with auditors and claims adjusters, special forces, that type of stuff. And I've done a lot of work around the world. But if I wasn't doing this today, I would still probably be an investigator and still probably be in a training academy and something in inspiring people and encouraging them to learn and to grow emotionally and professionally, be a virtuoso in their field. I'd like to see people max out to the best of their ability.
See, that's why Stan should have gone first, because now I'm
No.
like, I didn't say anything. He said all the good stuff, and I said, I watch Friends. See, he's like all science and all this stuff, and I'm like,
I'll let the
Science,
people-
FBI, friends.
how do you get into it, Friends? I don't know. It's just Stan
And
is
the
like,
body language that's happening here, Stan's like, that's right. He's setting his shoulder back. And Leo's like, I got a lot of nervous energy with my hands.
I don't know what to do with my hands.
So this is great for me because I actually did not know you two before this. Lindsay has known you two for a while, but this is exciting for me, especially because I'm a speaker myself also. So I'm very excited to hear kind of what you two have to say. And kind of as speakers, you meet a lot of different people. How do you stand out before you stand on stage?
I'm going to let Stan do this one first now.
Chicken.
I think the thing, and Leo hit it too, is there a problem that I can fix? Something I can solve. And both of us want to help people solve a problem. And so if you find that area, now my moniker, if you will, is the lie guy. And how that happened, very early on, my first media appearance was with 2020. It was on the Ramsey case. And I had to do a television interview, and I had no training experience in this. I thought, boy, I could get in trouble for this. And that's when I discovered NSA and how to refine that, Alex. There's that skill set. Now, and Leo also said something, evolving. Experts always evolve. Experts also read and study outside their particular area. So I know Leo, we got to meet together, and he got to sit in one of my classes. I've watched some of his video work and read some of his writing, and we're on the same path, but we're solving a little bit different sets of problems. And if you ever get stagnant as a speaker, and I bet Leo does the same thing, it never comes out the same way every single speech. It's because the audience, and you see them respond, you see them going, yes, I need that. Just like Leo's doing right now, you see the audience go, yeah, I've been, and that encouraged me that both of us, we are doing the right thing. This is where we were meant to be and what we were meant to do with our talents.
Well, and I think, you see some,
you get that feeling, Alex.
well, you see some speakers that are very, very scripted, and you could cut any part of their program and put it all together, and it would still be one long script, right? So even if they did 10 events and you could cut different parts and put them together, it would still be exactly the same. And that to me, that's very impressive that somebody can do that. I can't. I go off.
And we tried for like a year and a half. We tried.
It did not work, right? I mean, it's like you're caging me. I can't. So for me, it was, Stan has very specific things that he talks about. He has his slides. He has the videos. He knows when he's going to play them. And he's been doing this for a long time. So he knows the dynamic of how it's going to go. But people will interrupt you and ask you questions. People will react in a certain way and ask you questions. So you can't say, no questions, we'll do it later. Or you can say, we'll come back to that in a little bit, but let me show you this first. But it is always going to be a different one. I have blocks of information that I know I'm going to be talking about. However it comes out, it comes out. I have a set of some things that I know work in the past, and I'm going to use them again. But in the end, is I tell my clients, your program is going to be unique to you because it's however it comes out based on the moment of what I'm doing. But the way that I think I stand out a little bit more is that I turned the body language part a little bit more inwards, and I focus more on your own body language than reading other people's body language. I don't think there's anything wrong at all in reading other people's body language, but to me, it's like I need to start with myself before I start reading others. And I need to focus on my first impressions. I need to focus on my handshake and all these things before I start reading other people. I think it'll come out even more naturally when you understand why you're doing it at all times.
Leo, while I was prepping and reading your work and thinking about what you and I do together, a line came to me that makes me think a lot about what you do. And you're listening, and you did this, you said this about watching your friends, you're listening with your eyes.
And it is. I mean, you really, there's a lot of people that are listening to the content of the words that you're saying, right? Which is great. You need to pay attention to what people are saying. because part of your brain is actually looking at the body language to see if it matches, right? So are you saying, and this is what you do. You're listening, but you're looking at the body language to see if there's congruency. And if there's no congruency, I need to dig a little bit deeper on it. Whoa. Did I lose you guys?
Nope, still here.
Oh,
We still got you.
my screen went away. So I lost you on my screen for a second. But if there's no congruency, then we need to dig deeper and find out what's going on, right? That's the basis of investigation. It's not about one little thing that they do, is how they change their body language, right? What changes from the baseline. But if you're not listening with your eyes as well, looking at what's different, what's happening with their hands, what's happening with their micro expressions, then you're only paying attention to one tiny segment of a channel of communication that is not body language, but only the verbal part of it. So it encompasses everything.
I think it's interesting what Stan was saying about the evolving as a speaker, and then what you were talking about with like the Q&A and how it's always different. I think what's interesting is when I speak, and I have multiple topics, but one of the topics I've been speaking about for about the last 2 years is crisis communications. And when I started speaking about this topic, I probably had 15, 20 minutes of Q&A, and now in an hour, and now I'm able to preempt the questions because I kind of know what people are curious about and what they're going to ask. And so I've shortened that down to like 5 minutes, or sometimes I end it and I'm like, does anyone have any questions? And they go, nope. And I go, good, I guess I did my job. You understand everything, right? But at the same time, while I'm speaking, I'm checking in with them, right? And I'm checking their body language and seeing if they're grasping the content, and before I move on to the next kind of section of my talk. So I think that listening with your eyes is really important in making sure that not only are they, do they have any questions or anything like that, but also like, are they comprehending what you're saying, right?
Well, so when you're doing, I used to do corporate training, and it was 5 days of trainer sessions. So it was 7 hours a day with the same people. And anybody that has gone through any of this, and Stan does like a full day workshop, right? And there's several days as well. You can't do that unless you understand what your audience is going through when you're doing that. You know visually if you need to go back and talk about the topic a little bit longer, or if you need to take a break, or if if people are not really getting what you're trying to say. You can read that as an instructor, as a speaker. If you're aware of those things, it makes you a much, much better speaker, because then people feel like you're connecting with them. And it doesn't have to be just one person. You kind of start seeing the same pattern, right? You see people young, or a couple of people that look like they're not paying attention. So maybe it's time to take a break, or maybe it's time to start asking questions, or maybe it's time to start showing a video. So you have to be aware of that. When I do a keynote, it's probably not, I don't pay attention to them as much in that respect, because I know we're not going to take a break. I know that we're not going to really have to worry about any of those things, but I have adjusted my program on the fly based on the reactions that I'm getting from people. And if I tell a joke and people don't laugh, then I make fun of myself. So it's perfectly fine to be vulnerable on stage as well.
No, but I think that's an important place to note too, because it's interesting that the three of you as speakers inside the space and events, you immediately go into a very different place. That when I'm thinking about, how do you stand out before you stand on stage? I think of like a speaker like Christine Cashin, where when Christine comes in, she's deliberate, like she has a whole way that she works the room. And so for everyone watching behind me, I'm actually at the Hottie Documazzo secret family reunion in Tuscany. It's been pouring down rain. It's nearly midnight here. And so I'm in somebody's like library pass-through place, because we're in this like middle of nowhere Tuscany, literally the middle of nowhere, y'all. But so going back to
we'll
that,
use that as an excuse.
You says it's so much fun. But going back to it, so Leo, I know you've worked a lot, and I think you and I were talking at a CSP event one time, and you were telling me that something that you did with before the stage, before you got on, right? Mm-hmm. So Leo, can you describe Christine's? Because I know you've adapted part of it, and then Stan, give us like, what's that tactical, like 5 to 15 minutes before you take the physical stage, what does that look like to warm the room up? Because that in itself is a version of networking to get the people talking to each other, but also to get them invested in you, right?
I'm going to let Stan do this one because otherwise it's going to be a conversation kidnapper.
Well, a lot of people like the back row. And I always walk in. I'm all set up when everybody starts to register. And I go now talk to them, where you're from and so forth. But I'll go to the people in the back row because they're the first ones in. I said, thank God somebody's sitting back here. You know how hard it is to get somebody sitting in the back row. Thank you for taking that spot. Now, everybody do this. And then look at me and said, come on, everybody's got to do this. I got to train you. So they were reluctant to do this. And now when I give you the thing, that point to the student, you go up and in the back of the head as hard as you can. You get their attention. Their head should vibrate. Second level is you whack them with a class ring. And now I own the back row because they're now my guardians. And so I work from the back and work forward to meet everybody coming in, wander the stage. And so now they're already your friend. You've already made that contact or connection with them. Joke, you work for so-and-so PD, what's your job? Leo, what's your training area? And Lindsay, tell me
Hold on,
about
because
it.
I want to take a moment for the ones who aren't watching for us. So from an appearance standpoint, it's really funny because when I've been at this event all week long and people have been asking about the podcast, right? And they're like, describe for me who Stan Walters is. And I was like, Stan looks like an FBI agent. And they go, what? I said, I want you to imagine the stereotype of the FBI agent. And like when he goes to industry event, this is the first time I think in 5 years, I've seen him in not a suit. And so the fact that you were encouraging people to thump them inside the head and hit them with a class ring, like I already really respected and liked you. It makes me like you so much more.
I like that technique though.
Yeah. But Lindsay, something too with your event planners and your event managers, and Leo can chime on this. So let's say you got a large crowd and you're wondering how are things going? Is there something untoward happening? Is somebody not really happy with the food? And we're like at a restaurant. How's it? Oh, it's fine. But you can tell they don't really mean it's fine. And so you can read that disconnect that Leo's talking about with the face and the words or the body. And that's how sometimes I read victims or read subjects. It's the omission things they leave out. They're the key. Leo and I can tell that's something important. We need to spend a little time and dig right there. And that'll give your event planner and manager and on-site folks greater contact with them and say, we are interested not only just having you here to have you butts and seats, but we want you to have a great time. And I want to make sure as a planner, you're having a good time when we meet your expectations. So it keeps them connected with the audience at the same time. And then Leo and I will do that with the event planner. We help, when things go rough, timing's off. Can you fill the space, not fill the space? Alex, you've seen that.
Yeah.
We're ready to go. And then something else at Leo, I don't have a signature story. I was thinking this the other day. I've got 70 case stories, but I don't have a signature story. And anytime certain questions come up, you'll tell one story at one event. Next event, you'll never use that story again, but you'll have a different one as a case explanation for that next audience member to meet their specific question. That's what speakers can do in a training setting, Alex.
Yeah.
And I think the what the omission part is very important, and we can go back to the question she was asking. But sometimes what I've noticed, if you go on the quiet diet where you just don't say anything after they say it's fine, you just wait. You leave that awkward silence. People will go, I mean, it's fine, but here's what I think it's missing. Whatever. So sometimes you don't even have to ask. People are so uncomfortable with you not talking to them. Just keep looking at them like, how are things going? Oh, it's fine. And then just give them that eye gaze and that awkward silence. Just people are like, I mean, it's just that blah, blah, blah. And then they'll just spill their guts. So if you know how to use that, it works really, really well. I have a little technique different than Stan about how to warm up the audience or what I do. And Christine Cashin is the one that showed me this, and she calls it compassing the room, which is you go to the north, south, east, and west parts of the room and talk to different people before the event so that you do have friends, quote unquote, that you already know. It helps you as a speaker because then you're comfortable with people that are closest to you. You're comfortable with people behind in the back of the room. And if you have a moment to grab a couple stories from those people And then you can use them during the program where you can say, what was that, Charlie, that you were telling me at the beginning that you failed from blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, wow, he knows our people, right? He's connected. He feels like one of us. So if you can do that, it helps you immensely with whatever audience you have. If it's a big audience, then I'll try to do it with a few people. If it's a very small audience, I try to shake hands with every single one that is there before the event starts and introduce myself.
And same thing, if you look at if you get an attendees list, now my classes run from 15 to 75 people. And I might have an intelligence guy from the Army. I might have a consumer protection investigator. I might have somebody from health industry. There might be accident senior construction guy. There may be a loss prevention guy. So I know, okay, so I take these examples and I say, now, for example, if you're working where you have employees involved with contractors and taking illegal gifts or something, and I can see those people perk up because I know their industry. And I can translate my content like Leo does, and here's how it works. Instead of having a generic form, once you know them and their needs, they say, he's here and he's meeting those needs for me. But you've made that previous contact with them already.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, when you're talking to the event planner and about the people that are going to be there, then you start switching your stories to match that industry or to match the different needs of the different people, because sometimes it'll be all managers, sometimes it'll be managers and employees. So you can't just do a generic one for everybody. I mean, unless you're one of those speakers that had one of those very, very inspirational stories that apply to every single aspect in their lives, then you have to be flexible. You have to be able to adapt. And the best way to do this is to network with the people that you, before the event, during the event, and even after the event. I like to be one of those speakers that I'm not going to, you know, and I think Lindsay knows this story about one of our NSA conferences. I met the main keynote speaker for that day on the way down on the elevator. The guy was the rudest person I've ever met. Like, he did not even look me twice in the eye. We were in the elevator together. I said hi, and he just kind of basically ignored me. He walked away from me when we got off the elevator. There was no contact. He didn't know who I was. I was going to be in the audience, but he saw my tag, so he knew that I was going to be in the audience, and still he chose not to do it. And then he goes on the stage, and he's like this amazing speaker, right? And everybody loves him. But inside, I'm hating this guy because I'm already biased towards the first impression that he made on me. And then after the event, he walks away unless he's trying to sell his books. So for me, it's like, be the same person off stage, on camera, off camera. You can't be different people. And some people defended him, saying that, well, he's in the zone and he can't be distracted. I don't believe that. I think you can be nice and still be in the zone.
So
you're in your audience's zone.
I mean, that sounds like a pretty big fail on that speaker's part. You know, kind of going off of that, what do you see fail from a networking perspective? Like, is there any other tactic that you've seen people try that just does not work?
Yeah, the card dealers. The people that go to a networking event and all they're doing is they're just like they don't spend time with you. They spend 30 seconds. Hey, and first of all, they talk all about themselves. They don't care what you do. It's like, I'm a lawyer. I represent bankruptcy, and here's my card. And what's your name? John. Okay. Thank you. And then they move on to the next person. I would rather meet 3 people, have 3 meaningful conversations at a networking event than meet 200, come back to my office and have to add 200 people to my LinkedIn that are probably not going to like me anyway, because I didn't make an impression on them. So I want to be me to 3 or 4 people than be a bland version of me just because I'm trying to meet as many people as I can in 1 hour by handing as many cards as I can. Some people make that their goal. It's like I forget my business cards to networking events all the time, which is bad because that's like going to war
He
without
carries
bullets.
these actual playing cards around that have weird feet on them, and he's like, let's be friends this way because this is how I know that you can take my humor. It's really
Oh,
awkward.
no.
It's like the
And
worst
it's not the
networking
cards that have the
thing I've ever
feet.
seen.
I actually, I have improved that, and now I have my actually creepy feet that I talk to people about.
If you're just listening to this, you need to watch the video because
Is that a
Those
have
networking fail,
fi-
Stan? I mean, I feel like
I
I
got
got
nothing.
feet puppets.
I'm sorry. I can only do it. So that's it.
No, but this thing's
just
so
describe
the reason
this.
I came up with
Those are little feet that are on his fingers, guys. This is yeah.
It looks really weird off camera, but
Oh man.
the reason I got this feet, so they're puppet or finger puppet feet, whatever you want to call it. The reason I did this is because there's a whole section on my program that is about networking and how feet are the most honest part of your body because the brain forgets to control it, right? So when you're done talking to somebody, you tend to point away, right? So if people can't see that, because I'm on stage, I have people that I bring up on stage anyway to demonstrate this, but they can still see the feet. So one day I came up with this thing, so I can actually show from far away what people's feet are doing. And this has a funny factor, once I bring them up, people, they start laughing at it because they're creepy, right? So every time I travel, I take them with me. I take photos on Instagram. I have a hashtag called #creepyfeet. So you have to find ways to make people remember you. So whenever I go to a networking event, I always take this because at some point I'll bring it up, talk to 3 people, and because everybody's laughing or they're talking about it, more people come to you. So instead of me going to so many people, I make myself interesting enough by not even trying, but I make myself interesting enough that other people want to meet you. So
the
you got to
feet
find a way
feel
to
like
stand.
you're trying. I'm
but
interrupting because I'm really curious here. Like, you don't see the feet as a trying hard thing?
So when I first did it, I wasn't really trying because I used to take my shoes off. This was a means to an end, and it became so funny that I'm like, okay, this is good. It works. So
I mean, it's memorable for sure.
it is.
It's like Tim Garden is chicken feet. Out of his suitcase.
See, he has the whole chicken, right? I mean, the chicken feet on the suitcase, and then he has the squeaky chicken as well. So you got to find things that make you happy, make you laugh, and then you're gonna infect other people with your laughter and with your humor. So
Stan, networking fails.
Networking fails. Not knowing what the meeting planner wants, not knowing what those people in networking, don't force your need on them. Ask them and find out and converse and pull it out. My wife is the same way. I could be buried in a book at the airport, and the one lost person in the airport who doesn't speak English will find me and ask for directions. And I tell people, when you are a geek magnet, you're going to do all right. So when you have that open air and you're ready to accept anybody, people pick that up. And you can, with body language, like Leo's saying, if you close up and if you don't make eye contact and you don't grin or smile at somebody, I'm notorious for starting something. The waiter comes in. Hi, I'm your server. I'm Alex. Hi, Alex. I'm Stan. This is Leo. We're going to have dinner tonight. We'll be the guests. Whole dinner changes because we're engaging that person. Mm-hmm. It's about them, and don't sell to them. Learn them, and that this is part of rapport building that is important in any interview. When you get a critical interview, and can't even, this is off the wall statement. I'm taking a left turn on you. Osama bin Laden's driver had been captured by the U.S. and they were feeding him, taking care of him, treating him with respect. And they noticed he wouldn't eat his desserts. Somebody figured out, because they're paying attention, he's diabetic. They brought him sugar-free desserts. He started talking. That's paying attention to the other person. The networking is the other individual. Find their needs first. then if they want something for you, they'll ask you for it. But you just first be available. It's like at a funeral. Everybody worries, what do I say at a funeral? It doesn't matter. As long as you're there and engaged with that person, they know you're there for them. That's how you network people.
Well, but and that's the thing. It's a lot of the waitress issue. They feel invisible, right? They're doing the same job. They're being mistreated. They're not getting enough money. So they're like, why even try harder? And then when somebody engages them, it's like this light comes up, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
wow, who are these people paying attention to me? I've gotten upgraded to first class on a plane on an 11-hour flight just by being nice to the flight attendants. I mean, that's one of the hardest jobs in the world. You're stuck with 300 people in an 11-hour flight. You better be nice to those people because they have a really hard job. So everybody has this invisible sign saying, I'm special, pay attention to me. You just have to find those people and do it and be natural, be sympathetic, be empathetic with them.
If you want to get first class or if you're in the coach class laughing, flight attendant comes up, and what can I get for you, sir? I'll have orange dreamsicle shake and a banana split. And somebody go, I'll take one too. And you got the whole cabin in the airplane.
I don't know if you get the whole cabin into that, they're going to upgrade you, or they'll upgrade you just so you stop rotting up everybody else. Like, we need to get this guy away from everybody else.
In my interviews, when I do very serious, critical, intelligent interviews or interviews about nasty crimes, I'll spend the first 15, 20 minutes engaging with the person. I'll hear something about him or her. Subject came in, he was in jail. And he had fought the police the day before. We fought him all night, fought the deputies. They said, would you come talk to him? I'm thinking, why am I so lucky? But I got there at dinner time. And I'm sorry, Ray, did you get a chance to eat? And he said, well, just beans and cornbread. Well, I said, you don't like beans and cornbread? He said, I love beans and cornbread. Well, what was wrong? He said, the beans weren't cooked. I said, how do you screw up beans, man? You just boil them in a pot and sit them for an hour. He said, well, they were like eating rocks. I said, they give you at least some chow chow or hash browns? He said, no. I said, well, you had cornbread. He said, it was no. I said, are we in the South? How could you screw up beans and cornbread? This is the guy that fought the cops. When he arrested him, fought him in the car, fought everybody in jail, and fought him in the cell. In 90 minutes, I had a statement from him. And a study about interviewing criminals, and this is the far end of the scale. This is real left turn. Asked if they were going to talk or not talk. And they said two things that they would talk. If they were treated with respect and the person listened to them. That's all people want. Treat me with respect and listen. And you get anybody to talk to you.
That's two R's you mentioned, that rapport and respect. I mean, that's it.
Yeah. And I think that's something that a lot of attendees, we put them in these ballrooms. We put this week's a perfect example. Like, it's funny, you guys can't see, I have over here, we're starting to have an occasional live audience, but it was supposed to be 80 strangers. They didn't tell us where we were going, which for event planners and professionals makes us we're really tense, right? Got the control. And then because due to a series of just unfortunate events, it was just lots of different things to see, how do you handle things outside of your control? And to me, networking, especially as an introvert, I cannot imagine anything more painful than walking into a room of people I don't know. I hate it. It drives me crazy. It's why I work in events, because they will give me a headset and I get to go in the back and tell people what to do and not have to talk to another soul unless they're on headset with me. And I love that.
I love how you think you're an introvert.
Hey man, all the tests say so. Shut up.
I don't think you are.
Maybe an ambivert.
Yeah, that I would agree with. You can get sick of people. You have permission to be done with people and go hide, but you are anything but an introvert.
That's another topic. We'll get back to that. But I think, Stan, it's not just about asking the questions, it's finding the right topic. Because, I will almost case a room to see the people where I can find the commonality. Somebody was asking me about that last night. How do you approach a room? And I was like, I'm looking for the ones who look like they're feeling like they're looking like they're left out. Because if I can ask what's wrong, or how can I help, or what's going on, or why are you here? It puts the pressure not on me as an attendee to actually have to come up with topics of conversation. I can talk to them about the thing they want to talk about, and it makes it simpler. But we've all seen those rooms for like, let's do an icebreaker, or let's clap real loud and make everybody feel weird because we're doing things, or let's talk about feelings immediately without an open bar. And so, you know, how did you come about it's finding the right topic? Is that something based in science for you, Stan, when you were thinking about the interview techniques? Or is it was just, no, this makes the most sense based off these years of these case studies and experience and the way that you're seeing the people react?
It's just you approach them, attention to them. Is this a class where they're having hot Pilates? Am I in the right place? Just going.
I'm going to totally steal that one.
I love how coming out of Stan, because I say something like that, but
Because
Stan,
again, stereotypical FBI agent.
Asking about that. I know. It's so that's
the imagery, my friends, the imagery.
The most
is
most non-threatening things, particularly if you were doing it to yourself, you know, self-deprecation, and like you're lost or messed up or whatever, and then. To me, that's the quickest way to open people up, and it's a non-threatening because then I'm forced to smile. My eyes are smiling. I got a douche-in smile going. When you talk a little softer, it's like it's a secret. It catches their attention. They listen, and Leo's got the same concept. We talked a lot about approaching people and how to make that link from the known parties. I walked up to strangers in the street in the airport and made a comment, and just something humorous or whatever.
See, my sales pitch is I make people uncomfortable. Like people ask me what I do, and I say I make people uncomfortable. So that's how I get people going.
I'll tell them I put people in prison who lie.
So there you go.
So there's been a lot of talk about the lying, right? Mm-hmm. So in regards to body language, can people lie with their body, and what does that look like, and why do they do it? And how can they stop?
You don't want them to stop. No. At least for us, for me and Stan, we don't want them to stop. Keep lying. We love it.
For us, yeah. The body, but the bulk of the body work is broadcasting emotion. And like Leo said, when I see that the words and the body are out of sync, they're not convinced they're conflicted with their own answer. Mm-hmm. The deception to work, I've got to manipulate you mentally. I cognitively manipulate your thought process to get you to doubt your conclusions or play on your biases. So I don't worry about social lying. What do you think of this outfit? You know, makes your butt look big or whatever. You know, if we were brutally honest, nobody would talk to us. We'd be killing each other. So social deception is just being polite. What did you think of dinner? It was great. Did you make the meatloaf with cat food? You know, you can't say that. So you protect emotion. I don't worry about that. Hide, hype, or harm. That's the ones we worry about. If I'm hiding information from you, which is the most common, so I know you're going to make the wrong decision, or I hide. So, and Lindsay, I know in your work, you've had plenty of folks who said they were great speakers, great experience, and they got them up there and they crashed and burned, and you went and looked and said, wait a minute, all the things they said they could do, that was hype. They never have had that mileage. They never had.
That's why we watch all your videos, all of them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I'm suspicious of people who call themselves experts and just announce expert. And I'm looking at this cool Leo. I had this one guy, he wanted to hook me with LinkedIn. And I said, okay. And I know most of the experts all over the world. Leo and I read them, and we know we were talking the same names all the time when we were sitting eating dinner together. And I said, you know, okay, now he started out as assistant manager of food pantry. Well, okay. He's got a degree in philosophy. Okay, and so he was a manager of food pantry, yeah. And then he started work for the government. He worked for 8 months. He took 1 8-hour class. Now he's holding himself as a deception detection expert. He's had an 8-hour class. Now he's an expert. I didn't connect with him, but I can't be sure that is a sales. The charlatans are out there.
As a what is it that Emma Watson did? Is she's self-partnered. I am a self-appointed expert. So yeah, that's she's not single. She's self-partnered. That's what she said. So I am not an expert. I'm a self-appointed knowledgeable person. But there's a lot of people out there, and you know what? The description of expert is somebody that knows more than the audience they're speaking to, right? So in a way, we can all be experts at something, but don't be. You can still. You need certain training for certain thing. I mean, Stan has the backing for all this, and that's why I don't do what Stan does, because my focus is not online. There's other speakers that focus on fraud and lie detection. I don't do that because I don't consider myself good enough at that. I can detect it. I can see it. I'll explore it, but that's not what I do. For me, it's more about bringing awareness to your own body language, how to make a better first impression, how to connect with people better. And all of us have to know how to do this thing. So everybody has their own expertise, their own topic that they speak about. And Stan is extremely good at what he does. Mine is different. Mine is entertaining, is off the cuff, I have certain topics that I've developed and evolved into, and that's what I do. And then once in a while, people will ask me to be on a show or something. If it's something too deep, I recommend somebody else, because I don't want to be the person that tries to make it up or let me read up on it so I can speak about it.
I'm going to stop you for a second, though, because when he goes, someone every now and then asks me to be on this show, Univision goes, let's have you do a daily segment for 6 months because you're really good at the body language thing. Show us what the superposing and the concept of personal space is in helping the people connect. And I think that that's a really interesting, because that's actually what happens in networking, right? Like, we either want to talk about ourselves too much and then we feel like we're that person, or we're like, I don't know that I can talk about myself, and so I'm going to push it down, and it makes it all more awkward. So how do you, Leo, like, I know the superposing piece, that's something that you're always wearing a Superman shirt. Can people
oh man, how did I miss that one? How did I not put it on for today? I can't believe that. So superposing and power posing, they change the terms all the time. It's a concept that Amy Cuddy, a researcher, came up with. And the idea of power posing is that if you're feeling down, if you're feeling not confident enough, if you feel like you need to, if you're going to be doing public speaking, for example, one of the things that people can do is stand up, put their hands on their hips. And the research that she did shows that testosterone levels go up, cortisol levels go down, makes you more of a risk taker, which they did gambling experiments to see people would be more of a risk taker after power posing. And yes, people were. So you're more confident and you're more secured and you feel better doing it. But then that study has also been kind of controversial because they've tried to replicate it and they're not getting the same results. So either way, to me, power posing is a part of my presentation simply because you can't be sitting down for 2 hours and then get up and speak. You can't. Whether or not you're building cortisol or not, it is a bad strategy. You can't get on a phone call if you've been sitting down for 2 hours and then you're going to talk to a prospect. You're not in the setting. So I tell people to stand up, put your hands on your hip, even if it's not scientifically proven that it works. The blood flow itself will improve the way you sound, will improve the way that you approach that call. And that's all that matters, is how you feel about it before you get on that phone call. And then the other topic, you talked about space. Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you were talking a lot about with your feet. And I think you touched on this earlier too, like the concept of personal space. Because and at networking events in particular, you can hold space, you can share space, you can block people out of the space. And we use our bodies to communicate this in a variety of different ways, especially if we're hiding something, we don't feel confident, or sometimes we're not even self-aware enough to know that we're doing it because of things that are going on. So that concept of personal space, and why is it important to have a cognizance of it?
So it's called proxemics, and basically it's a science of personal space. And depending on where you're from, depending on where you grew up, the culture, the country, the part of the world, your need for personal space is going to vary. Latinos tend to have a very small personal space. We're comfortable with each other, even if we're very close, with people that we don't know. With people that we know, we get even closer. But here in the United States, that concept changes. So you have public space, social space, personal space, and intimate space. And at a networking event, you'll see who's not very comfortable by the distance that they keep from other people at the networking event, whether or not they block themselves with a glass in front of them to kind of build a shield from the person they're talking. And it could be that they're uncomfortable with that person in particular. So I think Stan will agree on this, is that you have to observe. You can't deduct things from one thing. You have to put things into context. Did I see that person be more comfortable with another person, and now they're uncomfortable with this person in particular? Because that could vary how you interpret that moment.
There's a dark side of that too, Leo, and you take that exact same concept. It's part of the work I do with anti-terrorist training teams and so forth, is watching groups. And as much as we're in airports, it's fun to watch people, or in a casino. And you can see, okay, what couple is fighting, what couple are about to, what two people are about to be a couple. You can see that. Yeah. But for example, in what I was teaching you, the patrol units for the military, go into a village and you can tell, small village, you can tell the person who's the outsider, looking at all the people around them, and they move away from them. And if they know that outsider is going to do something bad and are aware of it, it's going to get them in trouble, they ostracize them, they'll turn their back on them. Or if they support that person, believe what they're going to do is on their, they believe it, suicide bomber or whatever, this is dark side of stuff. They'll be sitting and watching, waiting for it to happen. And so I'm watching airports and looking at, it's that situational awareness that Leo's talking about, when people have bad intent toward you. Okay, so it's concept, and if you're engaging people, one of the best defenses is that you're actually watching and paying attention to them, and you're less likely to become a victim if they want to pull a prank or pull a scam or do harm to you. So, and being open and walking down the mall like Leo and I do, somebody's going to come up and talk to you because they read us both as being open people.
And for those of you interested in this military stuff and law enforcement stuff, there's a book called Left of Bang that basically talks about everything that Stan just said, where it's situational awareness. You want to understand what's happening before something blows up. And that's what our people, our troops and our police officers are experiencing all the time. They have to be careful with everything. They're paying attention to everything because they don't want something to go wrong. They don't want to get to that point.
I almost want someone to do that, but like put it into event planner stuff, because if that's not an apt job description of what we do, right, Alex, we're watching it to make sure stuff doesn't blow up
all the time.
Bleep.
And I wanted to go back before we run out of time, because I did want to talk a little bit more about kind of this idea of being an expert and the superposing. Because one of the things I hear often from people who are legitimately experts is this idea of imposter syndrome. They don't feel that, even though they are an expert and they probably know more than everyone else in the room, they don't feel that they have earned that role, that they truly are the expert. And I think that and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that is shown probably more than anything. Usually it's hard to identify imposter syndrome ourselves, but I think when you look at someone, you can tell that they're battling with that imposter syndrome. And I've seen speakers on stage either being interviewed about an expertise or things like that, where they may start off and you can kind of tell that they're a little uncomfortable being in the expert role, but about halfway through, they kind of fall into it because they are legitimately experts. So I'm curious your thoughts on, the superposing and how to identify in yourself kind of that imposter syndrome.
Well, and I suffer from imposter syndrome all the time. I mean, I'm like the number one imposter syndrome person because I never appointed myself as an expert in body language. I was just very knowledgeable about the things that I studied, the things that I read, the things that I experienced. And I decided one day to speak about them. And, my first time on TV was when there's like, okay, what do you want your title to be? Can we call you a body language expert? I'm like, okay, why not? But if it doesn't feel right for me, because I don't feel I'm an expert at people creeping. I can do that. Like I'm an expert people watcher.
True story. It's the best party trick ever, y'all.
That's what I do, right? So it's being an expert. If it's self-appointed, then how are you really an expert? Stan, for example, has been doing police work for so long and investigation and observation, interrogation. He's an expert in that particular field, and I'm sure in other fields as well, but you can say that he's an expert interrogator, right? And lie detector, he's an expert at that. He has a very specific field where he has become an expert. So unless you have earned that right, you always feel like you're an imposter, like I do. You know, I feel great that people invite me to speak, and I get really good reviews, but I still, inside me, I'm like, why are people hiring me to do these things, right? So it is weird to feel that way.
I think there's two things I can synopsize in what Leo just said. Number one, everybody's an expert in themselves and their experiences. Nobody's had the experiences, nobody's had the transition that Leo did, coming in, not knowing English, watching friends, trying to make it on his own and learning what the significance of that body language and reading it was. And second thing with an expert is never being afraid to answer, I don't know. And to not be, because you're asked, doesn't mean you have to know the answer. I think it's fine to say, I don't know. That's fascinating. I'm going to learn why.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you start to become a virtuoso. Never
when
be
you
afraid
let
to,
your ego be up here, like you make something up just for the sake of it, then people will find you out. I mean, now there's Google. So this episode is sponsored by Google Search.
you know,
Google.
absolutely.
Are we sponsored by Google? Should I say Yahoo Search? So now there's Yahoo Search and
Bing.
and Bing. So you can do it.
AOL. We're sponsored by AOL.
Yeah, CompuServe, bringing you together.
Somebody's he said he's Googling him when he hugs him.
So as we wrap up, we've got about 5 minutes left. We ask all of our guests these questions to kind of wrap up the show. The first is, if you could only pick one, what is your one tip for event planners?
I'll let Stan go first.
The look of fear on your faces was such a speaker moment right there. I wish like I had taken a screenshot. That was awesome.
No, I think my one tip for event planners is to get to know your audience better. I know they're trying to do so many things at the same time, and they're focusing on the speaker to make sure that the speaker delivers exactly what they were hired for, but then they stop looking at the audience and the audience reaction. I'm not saying everybody does this, but they're so focused on the speaker that they don't see the whole picture. And I feel like you need to see how people are reacting to it, and whether they're liking or not liking the speaker. You need to pay attention to everything. And I know it's hard as an event planner, because then you got already 8 things going on in your head, but don't focus only on the speaker. Focus on the reaction of the people.
Mm-hmm. And once you find the needs of that audience, match the two up. And then don't be afraid. Then, if you want to give the audience the best, your group, don't forget to do the due diligence on your speaker. And there's things that, Lindsay, you've looked for. Are the NSA members? Are they certified speaking professionals? Are they members of Toastmasters? Do they have a proven track record? And go back and do the due diligence. And if in doubt, put them in a small breakout first, or see them, or like you said, watch the video of them. And the good quality speakers will have loads and loads of video. They'll have no afraid to look at their reviews, to look at their membership. They're not going to be in the organizations and survive, because that organization will weed you out very quickly if you're not performing to match the bylaws and guidelines and expectations of that professional group. And this also includes, like, there's trainers, National Association of Law Enforcement Trainers. If you screw up in there, you're not going to be a member anymore. And if you're messing with the audiences and causing them problems, somebody's going to know somewhere. So don't be afraid to check and ask them to show the bona fides and give them to you. But always meet the need of that audience first and marry those two parts up.
Yeah, I should have let you go first, because I just came up with another tip, but I'm not going to tell you now.
No, go.
Gonna
No,
hold
I
out
think-
on us?
I think, yeah, so that you invite me again. I think that's how you do it. You always live in wanting more, right? Um, I think a lot of event planners, they will do a phone call with you. But this world is so much about first impressions that just talking on the phone might not you might not get to experience how I am as a person, as a speaker. So I try to encourage my event planners to do a Skype call with me. Anybody that I'm trying to sell my program to, let's do a Skype call. Let's see each other and see if we even connect that way. See if we connect visually, because I think you can tell a lot more about me by looking at me than just listening to me. And I think that one would improve the way that you interview your speakers for your events. You'll feel like you're more comfortable with that person.
And Facebook and Twitter and emails, we're missing the body language, Leo, that you and I use to communicate with. And so words can be misinterpreted by the biases of the receiver. And so missing the body language, which is our key, coming full circle. Without that, you have no real good interpretation of exactly what's meant by that communication. You have to have both.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So real quick, final question. Do you have any good, new, cool resources you want to share? Websites, blogs, books, gadgets where people can get more information?
Leo's got some really cool flashcards. You remember flashcards when you learned how to do multiplication tables and so forth? He's got a really cool set of flashcards of body language. And if you're going to learn it, you need to keep practicing at it. You just don't take one class with Leo and walk away. You need to become a student of it. And I thought his flashcards, he shared a set with me. And those are really cool to learn and practice with. And then just don't practice watching a crowd.
Well, you train your brain to observe. I mean, that's the idea, is that you make your brain learn things by forcing it to learn it. And then the brain itself adapts and makes it easier for you to see it next time. So that's the idea behind the deck of cards, is that you can, learn all these different poses, watch him, observe him while you're people creeping. And that's going to make you a much better observer. So,
yeah. My stuff, I've got a huge YouTube channel, about 145 videos at youtube.com/the Lie Guy. And it's all 3 to 4 or 5 minute videos if you're interested in. I've got my website, I got a free ebook to give away with about interviewing interrogation stuff. It's the hardcore stuff, but there's applications. But Leo's got some great resources. And
see, his stuff is really good. That's Imposter Syndrome right there. Stan's stuff is really, really good. It's a lot better than mine. So go watch him. He doesn't do it justice. It's like, I got a little video, some videos, like 150 videos. I've spent all day working on one video today. He has 160 videos on mine. So go to his stuff.
So go to each of their things, but only because you were told to by the other one. Got it.
Yes.
They didn't talk about this before at all. There was nothing going on there. No,
we just like each other. We know each other. There's no need to compete with each other here.
That's awesome. Well, thank you both for being on the show, and Lindsay for co-hosting today. If people want to get a hold of you or follow you online, where can they reach you?
I'm on Facebook, Stan at thelieguy.com. Probably those two. And I'm on LinkedIn. You're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn.
Great.
But we got to help you anyway.
If you go to the website, I think all the links are there, leocardenas.com. And then you can find the cards there, or you can follow me on Instagram at Leo Cardenas. So any of those, if you go to the websites for each one of us, you'll be able to find us in all the other social media stuff.
Awesome. Well, thank you both again for being on the show. Lindsay, thank you for joining us at midnight in Tuscany, Italy. For those watching live, you know that we are live each Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern at event-icons.com, and episodes are available the following Tuesday on all your favorite podcast apps. But the best place to watch is live at event-icons.com. There you can see show notes, links to all the resources shared, and join the chat right there on the page. And as always, we want to know what you think. Contact us, tell us online, either on Twitter, Facebook, etc., who you want to see next on Event Icons. And we will definitely try and get them on the show. Let us know topics, guests, etc. We're always looking for new people, especially as we get ready for 2020. It's like less than 2 months away. It's very exciting. New decade, everybody. So
Oh my God, I hadn't thought of it like that. Alex,
yeah.
anxiety. Don't leave me with that, friend.
I'm so sorry. It's not a new decade. Does that help? All right. All right, friends. That's it for this week's episode of #Event Icons. We will see you right here, same time, same place next week. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, guys. We enjoyed it. A great time.
Bye, everybody. Thank you very much.
It's Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, so you know what that means. It's time for another episode of #Event Icons.
Presented by Endless Events.
The show where you get to ask the icons of the events industry anything.
Just go to www.event-icons.com to ask questions.
Our iconic guests will answer them live during the entire show. Before we get started, the more people we have watching, the better the conversation. So please help share #Event Icons
on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Just tell your friends to watch at www.event-icons.com.
Now, without any further delay, this is #Event Icons.